Taeho couldn't sleep that night. The gap in the map haunted his thoughts. For 20 years he had worked with star charts and spatial data at the Central Galactic Archives, but never questioned why the maps simply stopped at human space. Now, he couldn't think of anything else. The next morning he arrived early at the archives, a massive crystalline structure housing the collective knowledge of over 300 species. His office overlooked the main atrium where visitors from across the galaxy studied and researched. Elder Sunwoo was already waiting when Taeho arrived after closing hours. The old archivist's scales had dulled with age, but his eyes remained sharp. "Follow me," Sunwoo said quietly. They descended to a rarely used section of the archives. Sunwoo pressed his hand against a hidden panel, revealing a small room filled with outdated data storage devices. The official records claim first, contact with humans occurred peacefully, Sunwoo began, selecting an old crystal drive. The truth is more complicated. He inserted the drive into a reader. A grainy hologram appeared showing a timestamp from 130 years ago. The recording showed a massive council chamber filled with representatives from dozens of species. "This was an emergency session of the Galactic Council," explained Sunwoo, "the day after the Proxima Centauri incident." In the hologram, a frightened-looking official was speaking. Of the 12 survey ships sent to assess the newly discovered technological species, only one returned. The humans detected our scouts, interpreted our presence as hostile, and responded accordingly. Taeho watched in shock as the recording showed footage from the surviving ship. A small fleet of primitive-looking human vessels had somehow disabled advanced ships with technology that should have been centuries beyond their capability. "The humans sent a message after this," Sunwoo continued. "They said they would join the galactic community, but only on their terms. One condition was absolute. Their space would remain unmapped and unmonitored." "But why would the council agree?" asked Taeho. Sunwoo's voice dropped to a whisper. "Because they showed us something else. Something only the highest council members were permitted to see." He switched to another file. The image quality was poor, but Taeho could make out what appeared to be a recording from inside one of the human ships. A group of humans stood looking at star charts. One pointed to regions beyond their territory. "These areas are compromised," the human said. "The rifts are growing. We can contain them, but no one can approach." The recording ended abruptly. "Rifts?" asked Taeho. "No one knows exactly," said Sunwoo. "But after this, the council quickly agreed to human terms. The traitor I mentioned, my cousin, ventured near human space about 70 years ago. His ship detected strange energy readings, unlike anything our scientists could explain. When they moved closer to investigate, a human vessel appeared and issued a single warning. My cousin said the human captain looked tired, like someone carrying a heavy burden." Sunwoo put away the crystal drive. "Some believe humans aren't hiding their space to protect themselves. They're protecting us from something else." The next day, Taeho couldn't focus on his work. During lunch, he noticed a visitor he hadn't seen before, a human female in the distinctive blue uniform of a diplomatic corps. He gathered his courage and approached her table. "Excuse me, I'm Taeho, senior cartographer," she smiled. "Mira, Earth Diplomatic Service." "I hope you don't mind me asking," Taeho said carefully, "but I've always wondered about the unmapped regions of human space." Mira's smile faded slightly. "Some questions are better left unanswered, Taeho. But as a cartographer, let me ask you something," she interrupted gently. "If you knew there were dangerous currents in a river, would you mark them on a map or simply direct travelers to a safer route?" "I would mark the danger," Taeho replied. "And if marking it might lead the curious to investigate, to see for themselves," Taeho was silent. "Sometimes," Mira said, standing to leave, "the kindest thing a guardian can do is simply say, 'Don't go there.'" She placed a hand briefly on his shoulder. "Trust me when I say humans didn't claim that space. We volunteered to watch it." As she walked away, Taeho realized some boundaries existed not to hide secrets, but to protect those who didn't understand the dangers that lay beyond. For the first time in his career, He was content with a map that remained incomplete. After their late-night meeting, Taiho couldn't stop thinking about what Sunwoo had told him. He needed to know more. The next evening, he brought a bottle of fermented root juice to Sunwoo's office, a rare treat that made the old archivist's eyes light up. "I see you've come prepared," Sunwoo chuckled, clearing space on his cluttered desk. "You want the full story, don't you?" Taiho nodded eagerly. Sunwoo poured 2 glasses and settled into his chair. "Most species join the galactic community after being discovered by exploration teams," Sunwoo began. "We find them, evaluate their development, then guide them to the stars when they're ready. But humans were different." Sunwoo took a small data crystal from his pocket. It glowed with a faint blue light, an outdated storage technology from centuries ago. "This is rare," he said, turning it in his fingers. "One of 3 copies that escaped deletion after the council classified the incident." He inserted the crystal into an old reader. The air above Sunwoo's desk shimmered and a blurry image formed. The timestamp showed it was recorded 203 cycles ago. "The scout fleet approaching Sol system," Sunwoo explained. 12 ships sent to observe Earth. Standard procedure for newly discovered worlds with emerging technology. The recording showed a formation of sleek ships moving toward a blue planet. Then something unexpected happened. Small objects launched from Earth, heading toward the scouts. "The fleet commander wasn't worried," Sunwoo said. "Human rockets were primitive, no weapons, capable of damaging our ships. But the rockets didn't attack. Instead, they took position around the fleet and simply waited." A voice came through the static, a human voice speaking in perfect standard galactic. "Unknown vessels, you have entered Earth space. Please identify yourselves," Taiho gasped. They already knew galactic language? "No one knows how," Sunwoo replied. The fleet commander was so surprised that he waited too long to respond. The humans interpreted this as hostile intent. The recording showed sudden flashes of light from the Earth vessels. Not weapons fire, but some kind of energy pulse. 11 scout ships simply stopped working, their systems completely disabled. "What technology was that?" asked Taiho. "No one knows," Sunwoo said grimly. "It wasn't in our scientific understanding. The fleet commander managed to power up emergency systems and escape with the recording." The image changed to a formal council chamber, where representatives from dozens of species argued loudly. Then the doors opened, and 3 humans walked in. The room fell silent. "The first humans to visit the council," Sunwoo explained. "They weren't invited. They somehow found the council's location on their own." The lead human spoke calmly. "We apologize for disabling your vessels. They have been repaired and your crews are unharmed. They will be returned to you shortly." A council member rose, eyes wide with shock. "How did you find this place?" The human smiled. "We've been listening to your communications for decades. We learned much about the galaxy before you knew we existed." "And now they wanted to join the galactic community?" Taiho asked. "Yes, but with conditions." Sunwoo stopped the recording. The humans requested a large sector of space, much larger than normally granted to new species. And they demanded complete privacy. No mapping, no monitoring, no visitors without permission. Did they say why? Sunwoo looked nervous. The public record says it was for security reasons. But there was a private session afterward. Only the High Council and the humans. No recording exists of that meeting. But those who attended came out, looking scared. And they gave the humans everything they wanted, immediately, without debate. Sunwoo refilled their glasses. When the ambassador from Proxima 7 questioned the decision, the council chair said something strange. He said, "They are standing guard so we don't have to." Taiho frowned. "Guard? Against what?" "That's the question no one answers." Sunwoo leaned closer. "But there are rumors, ancient stories about regions of space where reality doesn't work properly, where stars disappear and ships never return." "Surely those are just stories," Taiho said. Sunwoo shrugged. "Maybe. But why would an entire species volunteer to isolate themselves? The humans could have joined us fully, shared in galactic prosperity. Instead, they chose to stand at the edge of known space, watching something they won't discuss. Taiho stared at the empty space where the recording had been. Have you ever met a human? Once, Sunwoo said quietly. A diplomatic representative visiting the archives. I asked him why the maps end at human space. He just looked at me with the saddest eyes I've ever seen and said, because what lies beyond can't be drawn with your tools. Sunwoo put the crystal away. After 200 cycles, we've learned to stop asking. The maps end at human space, and that's how humans want it. Taiho packed his few belongings nervously. After learning about human space, he had applied for a position on the research vessel Distant Light. To his surprise, his application was approved quickly. Now he was scheduled to leave in just a few hours. The Distant Light was not a large ship. Its primary mission was to study cosmic phenomena along the borders of mapped space. Captain Do-yoon had agreed to take Taiho aboard as a mapping specialist, though she made it clear they would be studying only the areas outside human territory. We respect boundaries, Captain Do-yoon told the crew during their first meeting. Her dark eyes moved carefully over each face. Our mission is scientific research, not exploration into restricted areas. Is that understood? Everyone nodded. Taiho looked around at his new colleagues. They came from 6 different species, each chosen for their scientific expertise. Researcher Minho, a thin man with quick movements, would be studying energy patterns. Botanist Yuna would analyze any biological samples they encountered. Security Chief Jihye stood silently at the back of the room, her uniform crisp and her expression serious. For 2 months, the Distant Light moved along the edge of known space, well away from the human boundary. Taiho mapped everything carefully, adding new details to the galactic charts. The work was interesting, but not what he had hoped for. Then Captain Do-yoon announced a change of plans. We're receiving reports of unusual stellar activity near Section 47B, she said during the morning briefing. We're changing course to investigate. Taiho checked his charts. Section 47B was right at the edge of human space. As they approached the area 3 days later, the ship's sensors began detecting strange readings. Researcher Minho called everyone to the observation deck. Look at this, he said excitedly, pointing to his monitors. Energy patterns unlike anything in our records. They seem to shift and change every few minutes. The patterns moved like living things across his screen. Beautiful, but somehow unsettling. Can you identify the source? Asked Captain Do-yoon. Minho shook his head. It seems to be coming from just beyond the boundary, inside human space. A warning alarm suddenly blared through the ship. Security Chief Jihye rushed to the control panel. Unknown vessel approaching, she announced. Her voice was steady, but Taiho noticed her hands were shaking slightly. Coming in fast from the direction of human space. Defensive positions, ordered Captain Do-yoon calmly. Minho, power down. Your equipment. Everyone, standard first contact protocols. Jihye moved quickly to Minho's side and grabbed his arm. Her face had gone pale. Power down everything non-essential, she ordered, her voice barely above a whisper. Now. Taiho felt his heart beat faster. The crew rushed to obey as the ship's lights dimmed to emergency levels. Through the observation window, they watched, as something appeared from the darkness of space. A sleek vessel unlike any Taiho had seen before. It had no visible engines, yet it moved with impossible grace, coming alongside the Distant Light and matching their position perfectly. It's beautiful, whispered Yuna beside him. The communication system activated. A calm, pleasant voice spoke in perfect Standard Galactic. Greetings, Distant Light. This is Patroller Serene Water from Human Space Authority. You're approaching. Restricted space will escort you to a safer trajectory. Captain Do-yoon responded professionally, assuring the human vessel they meant no intrusion. The human ship stayed alongside them as they adjusted course away from the boundary. Later that evening, Taiho found Jihye alone in the ship's small dining area. She sat staring at her untouched food. You served in border security, Taiho said, sitting across from her. Have you encountered humans before? Jihi looked up, studying his face as if deciding whether to trust him. Then she nodded slowly. 5 years ago. I was on patrol near Rigel sector when we detected unusual energy readings. She took a deep breath. My commander decided to investigate without authorization. We crossed into human space by just a few kilometers. What happened? Taiho asked quietly. 3 human ships appeared instantly. They didn't threaten us. They didn't need to. Jihia's voice dropped to a whisper. They showed us something instead. A recording from deeper in their territory, something they're containing. Taiho leaned closer. What was it? I can't describe it properly. Space itself seemed wrong, torn, and there were things moving in the tiers. Jihi shuddered. My commander resigned from service the next day. I was transferred to research vessels. She looked directly into Taiho's eyes. What we're told about humans isn't the whole truth. They're not hiding from us, they're not protecting themselves from us. Then what are they doing? Taiho asked. Jihi stood up, leaving her food untouched. They're standing guard, and whatever they're guarding against, I pray we never have to face it ourselves. The distant light continued its research along the boundary for another week. Captain Doyun kept them at a safe distance from human space, but close enough to study the strange energy patterns that fascinated researcher Minho. The human patrol ship had departed, but Taiho felt certain they were still being watched. On the 8th day, disaster struck without warning. Stellar flare detected, shouted the sensor operator. Massive radiation surge heading our way. Captain Doyun immediately ordered evasive action, but the ship's engines sputtered and failed just as the edge of the flare reached them. Warning. Alarms blared throughout the vessel as systems began shutting down. Engine control is not responding, reported the engineer. Power dropping to critical levels. Can we get a distress signal out? Asked Captain Doyun, her voice steady despite the danger. Negative. Communications are down. Taiho held onto his console as the ship drifted. Without power, they had no way to control their trajectory. Through the observation window, he watched with growing horror as they slowly drifted toward the boundary of human space. We're being pulled toward the restricted zone, Security Chief Jihi announced. At current drift speed, we'll cross the boundary in less than 30 minutes. The crew fell silent. No one from their worlds had entered human space and returned with first-hand accounts in decades. What would happen to them now? 20 minutes later, as they approached the invisible line separating known space from human territory, sensors detected a vessel approaching. The sleek human ship from before appeared alongside them. Instead of warnings or threats, a calm voice spoke over their emergency communication system. Distant light, we've detected your power failure. Stand by for assistance. To everyone's surprise, the human vessel extended what looked like an energy tether, connected to their ship, and began pulling them deeper into human space. They're taking us in rather than pushing us out, whispered Minho. The radiation from the flare would have killed us if we stayed, Jihi replied. They know that. 4 hours later, the distant light was docked at a human station hidden just beyond the boundary. Captain Doyun and her senior crew were invited aboard while repair teams worked on their ship. The human station was unlike anything they had seen before. Simple, elegant design with technology that seemed to function without visible mechanisms. They were led to a conference room where a human female in a crisp uniform waited for them. I am Commander Yunha, she said, bowing slightly. Welcome to Boundary Station 7. Your ship will be repaired within 12 hours. Thank you for saving us, Captain Doyun replied. But we have crossed into restricted space. Will there be consequences? Commander Yuna smiled. You didn't cross intentionally. And perhaps this encounter was meant to happen. She activated a holographic display in the center of the room. Ancient star charts appeared, showing a section of the galaxy from long ago. These charts date back nearly 10,000 years, she explained. Before humans reached space, 3 advanced civilizations existed in this sector. She pointed to star systems that Taiho didn't recognize. All were completely destroyed. By what? Asked Taiho, unable to contain his curiosity. Commander Yunha changed the display to show strange distortions in space. Space isn't uniform, she said. This region contains temporal fractures, dimensional weak points, things that can't be properly mapped using conventional methods. A male human in a white lab coat joined them. I'm Scientist Junho, he introduced himself. He adjusted the display to show simulations of massive cosmic anomalies, places where space itself seemed to tear open. These rifts appear randomly, Junho explained. When they open, they release energy that destroys everything nearby. Sometimes, they allow things to pass through from elsewhere. What kind of things? Captain Doyun asked quietly. Things that shouldn't exist in our reality, Junho said simply. The 3 civilizations I mentioned didn't understand what they were facing until it was too late. Commander Yunha continued. When humans developed space travel, we encountered these phenomena early. By chance, we discovered our technology could stabilize these rifts, preventing them from expanding. Why didn't you tell the Galactic Council? Asked Jaihe. We did tell the High Council, replied Yunha. But we all agreed that public knowledge might cause panic. How would people react to knowing that reality itself is fragile in certain regions? Taiho looked at the maps again, seeing them with new understanding. The maps stop not because you're hiding, but because what lies beyond can't be conventionally mapped. Commander Yunha nodded. Exactly. Our mapping systems work differently. We track the rifts, monitor their activity, and contain their effects. It's not something your cartography methods can represent. So humans aren't isolating themselves out of fear or secrecy, Taiho said, pieces finally fitting together in his mind. No, said Yunha. We're standing guard. Someone has to. That night, while their ship was being repaired, Taiho stood at a viewport looking out at human space. He saw distant stations and vessels, all positioned strategically around areas where space itself seemed slightly distorted to his eyes. For the first time, he understood why some boundaries should remain uncrossed, and some regions left unmapped. The repairs to the distant light were completed faster than expected. As the crew prepared to depart, Commander Yunha approached Captain Doyun with an unexpected offer. Before you return to your space, would you like to see our primary defensive station? It might help you understand our work here. The captain looked surprised but quickly agreed. A small transport vessel carried them deeper into human territory. Through the viewing windows, Taiho saw things he had never imagined. Strange distortions in space that seemed to bend light itself, and human vessels positioned around these anomalies, projecting energy fields that somehow contained the distortions. After an hour's journey, they arrived at a massive station shaped like a wheel with 8 spokes. At the center was a sphere of swirling energy that pulsed with a steady rhythm. Welcome to Guardian Hub Prime, said their guide, an older human male who introduced himself as Admiral Kyungho. His face showed the lines of someone who had carried heavy responsibilities for many years. The Admiral led them through corridors filled with humans working at control stations. Screens displayed maps unlike any Taiho had ever seen. 3-dimensional displays showing not just stars and planets, but layers of reality itself. This is our monitoring center, explained Admiral Kyungho. From here, we track every rift and anomaly in our sector. Taiho watched in amazement as technicians marked new distortions and dispatched vessels to contain them. One large screen showed a timeline of anomaly appearances going back centuries. How do you contain these rifts? Asked Minho, unable to hide his scientific curiosity. In response, Admiral Kyungho took them to an observation deck overlooking a vast chamber. Inside, a team of humans worked around a small tear in space, a black, jagged opening that seemed to shimmer with unnatural light. This is a minor rift, explained the Admiral. We caught it early. The humans activated devices that projected energy fields around the tear. Slowly, the rift began to shrink until it finally closed with a flash of light. We discovered that certain energy frequencies can stabilize these tears in reality, said the Admiral. It's dangerous work. Sometimes things try to come through before we can seal them. What kind of things? Asked Jihye quietly. The Admiral's expression darkened. Things that don't belong in our universe. Entities with their own laws of physics. Some are merely curious, others are hungry. In another section of the station, they were shown ancient artifacts, remnants of the 3 civilizations that had been destroyed before humans took up their guard duty. They were advanced, but they didn't understand what they were facing, said a scientist named Jisoo. By the time they realized the danger, it was too late. Before they departed, Taiho asked the question that had been bothering him since he first learned the truth. Why did humans accept this responsibility? You could have warned the galaxy and shared the burden. Admiral Kyung-ho exchanged glances with Commander Yunha. It was she who answered. We chose isolation not from fear, she explained, but because knowledge of what lurks beyond could cause panic across the galaxy. Some species aren't ready for this truth. But why humans? Taiho persisted. Why did you volunteer? Because we could, said Yunha simply. And someone had to. As they returned to the distant light, Captain Doyoon was unusually quiet. Just before departure, Commander Yunha handed her a small data crystal. This contains information about safe travel routes near our borders, she said, and a direct communication channel if you ever need our help. 3 weeks later, the distant light returned to Central World. Their report caused a sensation among senior officials, though much of what they had learned remained classified. Taiho returned to the archives with a new purpose. He submitted a formal recommendation to update all galactic maps. The blank area of human space would remain largely unmapped, but with a new designation: Protected Sector under Human Guardianship. Director Hyunjin studied the recommendation for a long time before speaking. Will other species understand why humans guard this boundary? Perhaps not entirely, Taiho replied, but they'll understand enough to stop asking why the maps end there. In the months that followed, attitudes across the galaxy began to shift. The first human liaison office opened on Central World the following year. Taiho was among those invited to the opening ceremony. The human ambassador spoke of cooperation and shared knowledge, carefully avoiding any mention of the rifts. But when the ambassador's eyes met Taiho's across the crowded room, there was an understanding between them. That evening, Taiho returned to his office and looked at the newly updated galactic map. The edge of human space was now marked with a simple symbol, a shield. It was enough. As he prepared to leave, Taiho noticed a young archivist studying the map with a puzzled expression. Why does the map stop here? The young one asked. Taiho smiled. Because some boundaries protect us all.